Now game week 24 is all said and done. I scored 137 points and I've moved up to 28k overall. And I thought I'd update you all on my team selection. So then a quick review as to how my team got on in game week 24. Main updates from last time, I'll go through those first. David Moyes with a 22-pointer. That Tarkowski last-minute goal in the Merseyside derby pretty much saving my game week, to be honest. I think Moyes was on, 13 points before that? So there was a really big swing from that goal. Obviously, a goal changing the completely changing the result of the game. Yeah, I'm up, I think, 7 points. I think Slot got 15, David Moyes on 22. And I'm pretty glad I went with David Moyes. And my logic behind it, I think, was pretty solid. I mean, I already had 3 Liverpool players first off. But even if I didn't, I think I would have picked David Moyes anyway. I had a feeling that Everton could get a result out of Liverpool at Goodison Park. Liverpool, I still think, are the best team in the league. But I don't think there's any denying that their performance levels have dropped a little bit from where they were right at the start of the season when they were just blowing everyone away. So I did feel, and the narrative, of course, of that final Merseyside derby at Goodison Park, all of that in my mind added up to Everton. And obviously Moyes being a new manager coming in for Sean Dyche, I just felt all of that would have added up to some potential results for Everton against Liverpool. And that's exactly what we got. So really pleased with that 22-pointer from David Moyes. Other players that played last night, well, Trent featured. He got 1 point in that game. I was a little bit concerned that he would be unfit for game week 25, but given he played some minutes against Everton, that proves he's fit and ready to go. Salah as my captain, obviously 3 goals and an assist across the game week, 58 points as my captain. Triple captainers would have, been absolutely on fire. I think the question is, though, given that I used my triple captain earlier on in the season with Erling Haaland and he scored a hat-trick in that game, that I used a triple captain against Ipswich, and I've been able to use my assistant manager on David Moyes this week, and obviously for the subsequent 3 weeks afterwards. I'm just wondering if I'm triple captain in Haaland early on in the season and assistant managing David Moyes this week, and well, we'll see who we're going for in subsequent weeks. Am I up on Salah triple captainers? That's something I need to try and work out, I think. Obviously, Salah absolutely crazy this season and crazy this game week as well. 58 points as my captain. He's on course to break the FPL record, and he'll probably do it by sort of end of March, April time, in my opinion. Any other players of note there? Obviously, the Chris Wood hat-trick, Forest clean sheet, 7-0 win against Brighton. One thing to say, though, one concern I have in my team is Cody Gakpo. He got subbed off a little bit early on and was limping off the pitch. So that's an open question, really, as to what we do with Cody Gakpo. And as we go through my team selection, I'll let you know my thoughts. All right, so I went through quite a lot of this in my previous team selection video, but this one is, I guess, a maturation of my decisions. So I was talking about potentially bringing in a Bournemouth defender on my last team selection video, and I've come to a conclusion that if I were to bring in one, I'd go for Howson over Kirkez, I think. There's not a whole lot to separate them between their attacking stats. Obviously, nothing to separate them from their defensive stats. The only thing to separate the two is their price. Howson coming in at 4.4 million and Kirkez being 4.9. So with that Southampton, Wolves, Brighton fixtures coming up, it's a good run for Bournemouth. They've been in really good form, both from an attacking perspective and a defensive side of things. So really tempted to potentially bring in a Bournemouth defender. Remember my team? I've got David Moyes at the moment. I'm very likely to move him on to Unai Emery. And that leaves me, with Morgan Rogers already in my team, that leaves me with one extra slot for an Aston Villa asset. And I could potentially use that alongside, or instead of bringing in a Bournemouth defender, to go for an Aston Villa asset. See, I've got Konsa on here as an okay asset. I have a feeling he might be all right for game week 25, but it certainly does look like Villa are really short of centre-backs at the moment. I think Disasi is probably the one to go for if you want to pick a Villa centre-back. I think he's 4.2 million at the moment. But if I were to pick a Villa defender in general, I'd go for Luca Dean. However, just with the injuries they have at centre-back, the fact that in general, I don't think they're the best defence by any stretch of the imagination. Whilst that double game week is tempting, Ipswich, Liverpool, they could keep a clean sheet against Ipswich, although I wouldn't rule out Ipswich, definitely wouldn't rule out Ipswich being able to score against them. And then are Villa realistically going to keep a clean sheet against Liverpool? Probably not. So for that reason, I don't think I'm going to bring in an Aston Villa defender. So I think going into game week 25, this is how I'm going to line up defensively. Trent, he looks fit, so that red flag can go. He looks fit, ready to go. Wolves and Villa for his 2. I think there's some potential clean sheet against Wolves and some attacking returns there. And I think he's going to be fully fit and probably start both of the games. And then I've currently got 3 free transfers. I'm going to use one of them to swap Moyes for Emery, which leaves me with 2. And then I would have to use one of my 2 free transfers in order to bring in one of those Bournemouth or Villa defenders for either Robinson or Aina. I've got Lewis Hall on my bench, but he's got Man City, so I don't think I can start Lewis Hall. I know 3 of my defence are kind of playing each other, but I can't justify using a transfer to swap out someone like Robinson or Aina or Sells, just how good they've been this season for a Bournemouth defender or a Villa defender. I don't want to make that luxury transfer. So for me, I think my defence, despite what I said in my previous video about bringing in Howson, I just think with blank double game weeks still coming up this season, I'm going to want to save my transfers, and particularly because I probably want to get rid of Emery next week as my assistant manager as well. So yeah, with all that in mind, I don't think I'm going to use a transfer on my defence, but I'm definitely, with the money I have, the fact I'm on triple Liverpool already, I can't really bring in, Arnie's slot. I know he's got a double in 25, but I'm going to save the cash and go for Emery. And again, similar to what my logic with Moyes in 24, I'm going to chase the upside of that Liverpool fixture and hope he can get a result in the easier Ipswich at home fixture before. Right, so onto my midfield then, and I've got 5 midfielders in my squad at the moment that I could currently pick. Salah, who's obviously going to be my captain. I don't think there's any debate around that. And I think, given that the double is Wolves and Villa compared to Bournemouth and Everton, despite the fact that he's got 3 goals and an assist in double game week 24, I would actually say the fixtures he's got in 25 are better. And I don't think many people can argue against that. I think Wolves and Villa, particularly with the narrative around Everton, are probably better than Bournemouth and Everton as fixtures. So if you still not used a chip, don't want to use your assistant manager and looking to maybe use your triple captain, I think this week is as strong as any to use it on Salah. Cole Palmer, I don't know. I feel like some managers are becoming a little bit impatient with Cole Palmer. There's just no way I'm going to sell him. I've got Semenyo ahead of Southampton at home. Then he's got Wolves and Brighton. Obviously, we just talked about Bournemouth. They got a really nice fixture run coming up. And also, I think there was a time when I bought Semenyo in a few weeks after when he wasn't really doing anything in my team that I was really tempted to sell him. And that was before he played Man United, I believe it was, earlier on in the season. And I didn't sell him because I thought, Bournemouth look a good team. He's putting up good numbers. He's just not delivering in terms of points. He deserves some patience. I gave him some patience. He stayed in my team, scored against Man United, and I've got him in my team ahead of this good fixture run. And then I got Mbeumo and Morgan Rogers alongside him. I spoke about this again, but just in case you're new to my channel or haven't seen these stats before, I did a quick comparison between the new Aston Villa signings. In summary, I'm going to go really quick around this. I'm not all that interested in any of them. I certainly wouldn't buy any of them in FPL. But looking at how they line up against one another at the moment, I would say the outstanding looking asset is Marco Asensio, just with the numbers that he put up in the French league like this season. And also, I've got Rodgers in my team. There's no justification to get rid of him. But I'm just concerned about his minutes in the long run this season with the sheer amount of attacking assets they have, particularly if they get knocked out of the Champions League. They got all of these players, will only really be in the Premier League as their main competition. They've basically got 2 players for every attacking position in the team now. So every single player has a rival to start instead of them, which does concern me in general about Villa assets, and particularly Morgan Rogers, who, I've probably said, definitely said, I said it on FPL Raptors podcast that I thought he was the best of the cheap midfielders. I'm probably not necessarily agreeing with that, particularly with the form that he's been in recently in the Premier League. 3 blanks, 3 1-pointers, 3 yellow cards, and 3 games where he's put up less than 0.1 expected goal involvements. He's dropped off a little bit in the Premier League, despite performances in the Cup and Champions League. So yeah, get through Game Week 25, and I could be potentially selling Morgan Rogers. But, I've got another bigger issue than this, but I'll talk about another issue in my team. I've got Isak at the moment, and I could potentially be tempted to bring in Watkins. I spoke about this in my previous video as well, so I'm not going to labour the point. I just think in general, maybe on a straight shootout, Watkins is probably better than Isak for Game Week 25, just because he's got the 2 fixtures and his baseline of points, should he start both games, is 4. But I just can't bring myself to get rid of Isak. He's got Man City away, which I would genuinely say, from an attacking perspective, Man City don't seem to have any issues scoring goals. But from a defensive perspective, they're just all over the place. And I would actually consider Man City a genuine team to target. They're on a level with some of the bottom league teams in the league in terms of their defensive numbers. So in terms of looking at starting an attacking player against them, I would consider Man City sort of a bottom end team in the league to target, basically, is what I'm trying to say. I just don't think it's worth selling Isak for Watkins. And I guess the next two fixtures for Isak are actually harder than the Man City one. Nottingham Forest and Liverpool after that. But just with how good he's been, I wouldn't rule out Isak being able to do something in those games. So I think I'm going to keep hold of Isak and resist the urge to bring in Watkins. And again, just going back to that point of the amount of attacking assets that Villa have, they've got rid of Duran, which you would initially thought would be good for Watkins' minutes. But I think Rashford could potentially take some. And then we look at a bit of a headache that I've got coming up. I spoke about this in my last team selection video. You can see there, I've obviously got 12 players picked. I've got Salah, Palmer, Semenyo, and Mbumo, Rodgers, Isak, Gakpo, and Chris Wood up front. And I have to bench one of those attacking players. And it's a really tough decision. I think we have to go on with the assumption at the moment that I think Cody Gakpo, I was going to mispronounce his name then, is going to be ready for Game Week 25. I have a feeling that he probably will be. He limped off the pitch for his substitution, but I don't think it was really anything serious. And with the form that he's been in, I think he'll probably be, I don't know. I don't think he'll be forced into the 11, but I do think he has a good chance of playing. So, unless we get info, I'll probably start Cody Gakpo because he's got the double game week. And then my benching headache is between these three, Semenyo, Wood, and Mbumo. And I spoke about this in my team selection video last time round. And I think I'm a little bit harder on my opinion about it now. I can't bring myself to bench Chris Wood, just with the form he's been in since he's been in my team, what he's done this season, the fact that he's at home, he's on penalties. I think he's the best of these three in terms of FPL assets this season. So it's between Semenyo and Mbumo as to who I bench, which is really, really tough. But I think I am just favouring Semenyo against Southampton. I really do think with the form that Bournemouth are in, it's definitely better than Brentford's current form. And he's got a better fixture. The only thing that Mbumo has hanging over him really is, well, he has 7 more goals this season, but also penalties. But I think I'm gonna bench Mbumo. Unless we get some real news that Gakpo is not fit and he won't start the first game, I'll probably bench him for Mbumo instead. But right now, assuming Gakpo's ready to go, I'll start him and bench Mbumo. And yeah, that's my team. Let me know in the comments if there's any transfers you would make to that. All right, well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. I know it was quite similar to the previous team selection video I made, but of course it is. It's my team. Nothing's changed in terms of the players I've got in it. It's just one more game has happened. But I do think quite a bit happened in that Merseyside derby, that it was relevant. And also my thinking's moved on, progressed a little bit throughout the week. A lot happened in that Merseyside derby. I thought it'd be worth an update. So if you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave me a like rating. We'll make that final decision on Cody Gakpo on my deadline stream. I'll be going live from 2 p.m. on Friday afternoon for that. So yeah, if you want to join me for a live stream, come check me out. And yeah, other than that, thank you very much for watching. And by the way, you can subscribe here to the Golden Goal channel if you haven't already and want to see more content from me. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in my next video.